Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here on day 2. We are so happy to have you back. Well, as Lauren shared, we have an amazing panel, I think, coming up about the future of purposeful technology. I have had the privilege of building what I would call purposeful technology on the Stellar Network for a very long time now, about 8 years, with 3 of that being at SDF. And I can say that we have had people from day one whose sole mission is to make an impact with the products and the tools that they build on top of the Stellar Network. 2 of them are here today to share some of the perspectives on what's possible and what's impactful, especially as the conversation globally in this area has changed very much in the last year. So I'm going to let our 2 panelists introduce themselves, and then we will get into some good conversation.
Sure. I'm Rick, one of the co-founders of Decaf. Decaf is a application we run on Stellar. We say we're a global bank on chain that fits in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Ali. I work in the United Nations Development Program and the team of Alternative Finance Lab, and we are smart casual guys who wear suits. So sometimes we engage in this community in order to understand what is the emerging technologies, and basically my work is focused on research and analysis of the blockchain, and we have done projects that we will speak about now. Thank you.
That was surprisingly brief. I saw a brief introduction. Most people expand that into like 4 minutes each. So good job to both of you. So I want to start with a really broad one just to give you a chance to share. What is one of your favorite purposeful projects that you're working on right now?
So I'll go first. I'll start with one that we did recently, and then I'll talk about something that's coming up. So I don't know if International Aid Society is here. Are they here? There they are. That's really cool. We have a case study with them, and we were in a roundtable yesterday, and we're talking about they didn't know what a stablecoin was last year, but they have a really successful case study that I want to talk about here. So they solved a problem. They had to pay 250 odd scholarship recipients. They had people flying from 50 different countries, all coming into one place, Rwanda in Africa. And it's really difficult to pay scholarships, as you can imagine. You have to go to Geneva, go to the bank. It's a bit of a nightmare. Grab the cash. You got to get the right currency. Then you got to fly it in a bunch of backpacks. You've got to have people lining up for hours, if not days. People getting frustrated, annoyed. They can't get their money. Half the travel costs are actually getting to the event, but they haven't been reimbursed for them. It's impossible to do that. So and carrying the cash is it's really dangerous and uncomfortable. And if all the logistics that you consider in this event, if you're tasked with like creating or running an event like this, it's taking a lot of time. It's a real nightmare. It's just a hassle. You're not able to do your job. You're just worried about money. So instead, they used blockchain, and they used Decaf to receive from this SDP, which is Stellar. Tori is one of the creators of it, or is the creator of it. And they just uploaded a recipient list with Excel spreadsheet. They put all the names in. They blasted it out like an email, and everyone received it. And they have their USDC as they can collect it. They click a link, drops into their Decaf wallet. Then when they're in their home country, they can go cash it out at MoneyGram, or any MoneyGram location, or when they get to the event, they can go cash it out at MoneyGram in the local area. And this was really exciting because we had 100% success rate. People were happy to use it, and the event organizers were obviously very, very stoked about not having to spend a lot of time worrying about cash payments. And if I'm correct, you're going to be using this even next year here in Rio and other events, and that's something that is really cool because they didn't care about blockchain. They didn't care about stable coins, but now they do, because it's actually solving a real problem for them, and that's I think something really exciting. And then I'll just quickly mention one thing I'm really excited about is working with your team. And the amazing challenges and that we're seeing. For example, in Colombia, they need to pay 210,000 families. Well, they did this year, 210,000 families in sort of poverty neighborhoods, and they did it in cash. And if anyone knows how to do about cash delivery, it's really, really difficult. You have a lot of admin. You have to write in a spreadsheet who's received the money. But the problem is that once you give someone cash, how do you know what they do with it? How do you know how they spend it? If your goal is food security or increasing education, if you're giving someone cash, how do you know what goal you're achieving? How do you measure that success? And so these programs for basic income, which is what's happening in Colombia, are at risk because you don't know if you're achieving the goals. It's just a bunch of cash that goes into the abyss. Now, with blockchain, obviously, we know it's transparent, it's on-chain, we can see everything that's going on. And then we also have a Visa card in there. So we can actually see every single spending item that happens. And so instead of these programs being at risk, we can actually transform how we do cash delivery, how we do spending, and how we do these disbursement programs. And that, to me, I think is one of the most exciting prospects of the transformation of global payments, especially cross-border payments or bulk payments in general. That's very exciting for me.
Thank you. Ali?
Thank you. I would mention from organization perspective what was the most impactful thing as a team in UNDP that we worked on. We started from this year with the idea of having 2 pilots, but now we ended up with a list of 24 pilots. And I think this is one of the most impactful thing to find out that we have 24 countries who are ready to discuss. And I don't agree with calling them pilots. It's more about blueprints, because those things are like spreading. I've witnessed, I would mention one story that we had, because we are also working with people like DCAF and other solution makers. We found out that sometimes it is really necessary in these webinars that we are organizing and how you can see that the country offices, the colleagues in the country offices that we are working with, they start to educate each other. They start to exchange knowledge of the possibility of this technology. It is not necessary to understand the technicalities or everything else, but you need to understand the impact, which is what we are talking about here. And there is amazing stories that could be part from, for example, we found out that it is possible that we could have the first example on stock exchange in Latin America. We have some discussions also with Ecuador country office regarding this, and it's still also linked with solution makers, and we need to also make this forward. We have 8 disbursements. We have also some interest and also some understanding that we reached out that sometimes if we want to discuss digital payment, we need also to discuss the digital identity. There is a lot of findings, I would say, that you would learn in this journey that would make the UX easier, make the job of the solution maker easier. And in this, I think the most impactful thing for country offices in UNDP, and of course, sometimes I would envision that the UN agencies, let's say, are also a vague thing that nobody understands what happens inside as blockchain. So we have the same mission of make the people understand the work that we are doing, and that's why I think it's a good mix and a good link for them to start really invest in the digital literacy of the teams. And this impact could be something very beneficial for both sides, as starting publishing the stories that's happening on the ground and doing a lot of, let's say, the communication strategy need to be developed. And this is very necessary, and also it would build up what's happening now on the local level. What we are trying to do as team, we are not trying to copy paste policies or solutions from one country to another. The approach for us is to go to every country, to study the context of digital payments at the start, without jumping on to what is the emerging technology first, to understand what is available, is it possible to advance or not, and then we will jump on to see what is the readiness level. it could take time sometimes for some context, but we keep knocking. So
What I love about having your two perspectives on the same stage right now is that to generalize, UNDP, very top down, very, one of the largest UN agencies, works with country offices, works with governments, doesn't have its own individual programs dispersing to end receivers. It's very much from the top. And then you've got DCAF, that it's very much bottom up, a technology provider, of course, but you are actually working with the end users directly, supporting them with the little things that come up, accounts, logins, and how do I get my money? And so it's really interesting to hear both of you sharing some of the same goals, certainly with very different approaches. Unfortunately, one thing that has affected both of you in different ways is the global funding cuts. It's a very different conversation this year than it has been, at least in my time in this space. And so how does the macro environment surrounding social impact, humanitarian assistance, and all of that affect the work that you do day to day and how you communicate it?
So I'm going to also call out another person in the crowd, Tessie. She gave me a new perspective on this from FHI 360 the other day about, there is a need for institutions to start looking at blockchain technology. It's not just a nice to have, it's not just an innovation project. At the start of this year, Trump came out and just said, hey, we need extra transparency in global aid or humanitarian aid, the US aid. And we need not just transparency, but we need more efficiency because we don't know where the money is going, like I described with the blockchain project or the project in Bogota, for example. When you give cash, you don't know what you're achieving because you can't measure it and it's invisible. But then also just it needs to be cheaper. We don't want to have 1 million auditors just to understand if the money's delivered, then 1 million auditors to understand what they've been spent on. And it's just a lot of human capital, it's a lot of expenses. And we are driven because of this mandate, essentially, that came out at the start of the year, and then funding cuts from this. There is a demand for both transparency and efficiency. And this is why blockchain is just an essential thing. It's not a nice to have, it's not just an innovation project anymore. It is going to be how we do payments and how we have to do payments.
I would build on your point with an interesting finding that we were discussing also earlier today, that when you find, for example, earthquake happens in some region, you will find digital payments based on blockchain around it, which means that should we build the context that it's only for national disasters, or should we make it as a development agenda? And to make it as a development agenda, now many agencies around the world, they have also this crisis of funding and the cuts and everything else. And I think it could be the best opportunities to push the agenda forward and also to see how to transfer the rails, how to make the life easier for many people on the policy side also, because sometimes we like discussing with the government is also a challenging experience. You need to sometimes spend a lot of time, a lot of efforts, and this is unfocused area that we find. But to invest, I would say, in not just mentioning sandboxes, it is not the only thing possible there. You could start with the system, building the system step by step. You could build innovation offices, innovation teams inside those bureaucratic organizations, as we did in UNDP. Like, we are part from the innovation team. It needs to be transferred to the government side before talking about sandbox as the first thing. The second thing could be direct tech, which is like, it is also a very important investment that also this community and this whole needs to invest with the people in the government in RegTech, which is could build the capacities of the people to understand from the other side of the aisle what we are talking about, what is happening in our rooms in order to build the policy. So saying the most impact that we could use now, we don't have a lot of like the luxury of time, let's say. and we don't have, but we have the tech ready. Like we can notice we have the tech ready, and we could build the UI and UX experience in the best way possible to make it easier. And I think we have clusters of individual stories that needs to be collected in a portfolio, and this is what our team's trying to do. Like our focus as Alternative Finance Lab is to build these blueprints together and to understand that this is not just a small pilot, because it's not a discussion about volume sometimes. It should be a discussion of the social impact that this could affect. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to end with 2 rapid fire questions because we only have a couple minutes left. So keep your answers very brief. First one, what is the unlock for navigating this sensitive environment? Like, what is the thing that is going to make your work effective considering all the sensitivity around purposeful technology? It's a totally unfair question to answer in 30 seconds.
We can do amazing things, but if we don't tell the story, no one cares and no one knows. And that's the issue we face with this. So I'm going to call out another person from the crowd. Medya yesterday just talked about this amazing, inspiring story with Ibrahim on Digibank. And they're like saving people's lives in Syria. They're paying thousands of workers in Syrian hospitals. And if they didn't, then there'd be no workers in the hospital. There'd be people dying. And this is happening now with the German government. And this is not out there. Instead, I'm hearing about, I'm going to put it out there, pump.fun. And I'm saying like, this meme coin, this NFT. And I'm like, there's people doing everything and no one knows. And there's people doing nothing and everyone knows. And this is the problem, and this is a thing. I actually think the biggest unlock in this whole industry is this right here. The transformation of bulk payments cross-border that's actually happening now. It's really, really happening. This is not a trial thing. Just because you haven't heard it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And so this communication needs to happen, and I can go on, but I'll leave it there.
I would say that would make the life easier is to we need to not pointing out the digital literacy gap for each other. We say to the public in some place that you have low digital literacy, but we need to look at ourselves also. All of us, sometimes I just want to mention something very fast. I've witnessed a lot of pitches also yesterday mentioning the figure of 1.3 billion. And I didn't see a lot of other information that could be also mentioned when it's related to digital payments. And this is also an invite to both sides of aisle to really understand what is the environment of doing this work and what is really exists. Because if we don't understand what exists, it will not help us to talk with the governments or the people that we need to talk with, and also to build the UI in the best way.
Wonderful. Well, I think that is a perfect place to end it. So we will stop there. Thank you both so much. And thank you all as well.
Thank you.